council meeting of the Corangamite Shire Council. This meeting, as you can see, is being held virtually. We changed our plans after the recent local outbreak of COVID-19 to hold it in the most safest possible way. So that's why we're back on your screens this evening. Can I start with the prayer, please? We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. Acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past and present. Mr Mason, we have apologies for tonight's meeting.
Just the one apology, Madam Mayor. Councillor Beard is an apology. Looking forward to having her back next month. Yes,
we are indeed. Declarations of conflict of interest.
Mayor, there have been no declarations of conflict of interest.
Thank you. Councillors, the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of August have been circulated. Would someone like to move those minutes, please? Councillor Macon and Councillor Cole. Is there any questions or concerns? I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Mr Mason, deputations and presentations. You're on mute, Mr Mason.
Madam Mayor, we have three deputations for tonight's meeting. They all relate to the planning items. Given that we can't have people in the gallery, those deputations have been made in writing and all councillors have received copies of those deputations.
Thank you, Mr Mason. So we'll move to the agenda, councillors, to committee reports. And item 7.1 is the Audit and Risk Committee Biennial Report to Council from September 2021. I'll ask Mr Ray to introduce this item, please.
Mayor, thank you. The report provides council with a summary of activities undertaken by the Audit and Risk Committee since its last report to council back in March 2021. This report provided in accordance with the committee's charter, but also the Local Government Act, which requires a chairperson to report to council every 6 months. And as previously stated, the previous report was March 2021. Mayor, this is the third biennial report to council. During the review period, the committee met twice, through April 2021 through to September 2021. During that period, the committee membership did not vary, and a record of attendance and committee activity is provided in the report. The committee made 2 recommendations to council also during that period. One of those will be considered later in the agenda with respect to the financial statements and performance statement. I recommend that council receive the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Ray. Councillors, someone like to move the motion to receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Hickey, and Councillor Kennedy seconded. Councillor Hickey, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is in accordance with strong governance around our council. It's a process that's very thorough, and I know the Councillor Kennedy and I both sit on this committee, and the report is very well drafted and well presented. So I'm delighted to move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy, did you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yes, this report does cover comprehensively the activities of the Audit and Risk Committee. The members of the committee are very committed to their task and welcome the opportunity for professional development that has been offered to us. We do have some important work ahead of us to source a new internal audit service provider in the next few months. I believe we do work well together, and I'm impressed with the desire of the members to improve their effectiveness in our duties. So I'm very pleased to support the recommendation for council to receive the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Anything further, councillors? We put that to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Move to planning reports, and item 8.1 is planning permit application WP 2021-090, buildings and works associated with the construction of 10 dwellings, 10 lot subdivision with common property and removal of native vegetation in Neil Street, Timboon. Mr. Moyne, could you introduce the item, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I present Council with this report for planning permit application PP 2021-090. The application seeks planning approval for the construction of 10 dwellings and a 10 lot subdivision with common property and native vegetation removal, being a single swamp gum at Neil Street, Timboon. The proposal includes 10 single story, 3-bedroom dwellings, a 10 lot subdivision creating lots ranging between 300 and 462 square metres, common property from Neil Street to provide internal access, designed with a turning circle, 6 visitor car parking spaces, access width to cater for waste collection services on site, landscaping and hard stand surface finishes for footpaths, driveways and car parking, and removal of the swamp gum to accommodate the development. Notice of the application has been given and Council has received one objection, which raises the following issues regarding density of the development, neighbourhood character and amenity impact. Issues raised in the objection have been reviewed and addressed as part of the planning assessment. Assessment of the planning application has been undertaken against the strategic direction and policy framework of the Corangamite planning scheme, which finds that the proposal is supported and will provide for infill residential development that increases housing supply and diversity within Timboon and meets residential subdivision objectives. The development will provide a modern, low maintenance outcome that is appropriate within the area and will deliver housing stock to meet current and future needs. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, somebody there would like to move the recommendation? Extensive conditions on there. Thank you, Councillor Macon. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Demand for new housing within the Shire's township is strong, with residential properties in Timboon attracting population growth to the region. The positioning Timboon and Simpson Strategy 2020 identifies that Timboon is a key lifestyle destination, but also recognises the importance of encouraging a range of residential development to ensure there is diversity in housing types to cater for residents and to support the local economy. The application includes the construction of 10 dwellings on a 10-lot subdivision in an established area. The subject site is well placed to access recreational facilities, health, education and commercial services. The proposed subdivision and dwelling layout provide compact and low maintenance housing. Infill residential development is an important component in supporting future township growth and should be supported in areas which have access to existing services. On balance, the proposed subdivision and dwelling development provides an acceptable response to the municipal planning strategy and planning policy framework. Lot design in the surrounding neighbourhood is mixed. There is traditional quarter-acre blocks south of Neil Street and north of Neil Street. Lots varies in size from 300 metre squares to 2 acres. The proposed development consists of a single-storey dwelling located in a T-shaped block. They are set back from the street. The dwellings will be mostly restricted from street view and will not change the character of Neil Street. Landscaping will be provided to improve the amenity and the visual appearance of the common property area. Previous subdivisions have sold very quickly within Timboon, and I feel this one will be no different. And I have no problem in recommending and supporting this recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Hickey, did you have something to add?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that Timboon is certainly one of the growth areas of our Shire, and this sort of development is one that's grossly needed to develop population and also to take up some employment opportunities. It seems that objections have been met quite adequately in that waste stand parking is all off street as well. And Timboon, as I said, has a number of amenities that are able to support these 10 dwellings. So we're delighted to see the proposal go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillors, does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Not, put it to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 8.2, planning permit application P 2021-075, use and development of land for a dwelling and upgrade of access to a road in a road zone category 1, Princetown Road, Princetown. Mr. Moyne, thanks.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor, and I present council with this report for planning permit application PP 21-075. The application seeks approval for the use and development of land for a dwelling on a small 1 hectare lot on Princetown Road, Princetown. Notice of the application has been given and council has again received one objection, which raises issues regarding traffic safety and the use of land for a dwelling not being connected to agriculture. The application has been assessed where on balance it will provide an acceptable response to the municipal planning strategy, planning policy framework and rural conservation zone, resulting in a suitable planning outcome. The proposed dwelling is appropriate for the site and area and will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding landscape or neighbouring agricultural properties by way of its design and siting to keep separation from productive farmland and infrastructure. The rural conservation zone supports sustainable land management, which the dwelling will achieve. Issues raised in the objection have been reviewed and addressed as part of the planning assessment, particularly those relevant to impacts regarding the management of agriculture. These have been considered having regard to the purpose of the zone and the nature of the surrounding agricultural land uses. The recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, someone willing to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Makin. Seconded, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Makin.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The former subdivision of the land is not applicable with this application as it was decided under a different planning regime. Assessment of this application must be considered on its merits against the relevant provisions of the Corangamite planning scheme. The proponent wishes to construct a dwelling on a 1 hectare lot that is cleared of native vegetation and does not provide any significant ecological habitat. The proposed dwelling will be well screened by established vegetation and has been designed and sited to limit its visual impact on the surrounding environment. The dwelling is located on a cleared section of site and no vegetation should be impacted on the development. Any runoff or wastewater generated will be used by the use will be managed so as not to impact the waterways, and this can be controlled through permit conditions which are placed on the application. The issue around the entrance to the main road, there is also more permit conditions attached to this application. So I have no problems in supporting the recommendation that a dwelling being established here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Makin. Councillor Vogels, did you want to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this site was subdivided a long time ago. It was retained by Theo and Martha Vanderlite when they sold the farm after farming there for 20 odd years from 1974. Be keen to get back into the region and enjoy what we've got to offer. It's always a double-edged sword when it's built in agricultural area, and it's never an issue for normally the person that's building. The Vanderlites will be fantastic neighbours, and we normally in agriculture run into trouble later on down the track with someone who hasn't got an agricultural background moves in there, and then they complain endlessly about agricultural things that go on and have to go on. But in this case, I'm happy for it to go through, but we normally try and discourage these sort of subdivisions in the middle of agricultural land. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillors, is there any further comment? No, I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Carried. We're now moving into officer reports, and item 9.1 is the 2020-2021 financial statements and performance report. And I'll ask Mr. Ray to introduce the item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The report proposes that council give in principle approval to the financial statements and performance statements for the year ending 30 June 2021, and the councils Canady and Hickey certify those statements. The financial result for the year just passed was a surplus of $2.7 million. This was lower than our adopted budget of of $5.28 million. However, the result is not unexpected given the impact of COVID-19 during the year, particularly in regards to additional funding received from both the state and federal governments. Similarly, the accounting treatment for some items budgeted as capital was treated as operating and has flowed through to the income statement, and there's been the disposal of some assets at a higher rate than was budgeted. And Mayor, whilst there was additional expenditure incurred with employment costs, these are largely recovered through grants, particularly in the Working for Victoria program. As also reported in August, the underlying cash result compared to budget is favourable by about $3 million. The key financial indicators remain generally strong, and they're reflected in the report before you this evening. The financial statements and the performance statements were considered by Council's Audit and Risk Committee on the 16th of September, and the committee recommends Council provide in principle approval. Mayor, the recommendations before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, there's a recommendation there. Somebody like to move it, please? Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Firstly, in this year that was peppered with restrictions and the unknown, and where agility became almost a requisite, I really want to thank Director David Ray and our Manager Finance, Adam Taylor, and their teams for managing all the variances to our adopted budget and still turning out a surplus of $2.7 million. There were a lot of variations that were sort of, to some extent, unforeseen, and they've all been described in the report. There's a number of them. Mr. Ray did already cover the examples that I noted with regard to the large amount of grants that we received from the state and federal governments related to COVID-19 recovery, and that were not part of our adopted budget. This recovery funding had to be delivered and in turn created delays in capital projects which were budgeted for completion in 2020-21 and which have now been carried forward. One of these was the 12 Apostles Trail at $3.29 million. Mr. Ray remarked on the extra employee costs that were incurred. I think, that it's been managed very well considering all the variations and unknowns that occurred during this past year. The draft statements were presented to the Audit and Risk Committee with the auditors from McLaren Hunt present to discuss, and I have no problem with the in-principle approval of these accounts. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Hickey, do you have something further?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm delighted to second this motion and accept the 2021 financials statements and performance report. The key financial indicators have all been met. It has been quite a difficult time to actually deliver a lot of these programs, given the supply of material and the supply of qualified tradesmen and women and people to actually conduct these projects. However, I've got no hesitation in seconding this report and thank the officers for the work they've done in keeping us on track.
Indeed, I think it's been a year like no other, and I think that the finance team have done an amazing job, as well as all our staff working under very, very trying conditions. So it's not it's not unusual to see the amount of carry forward projects that we do have to considerable sums. And I just remind people when they look at the bottom line and assure them that we're not stacking up the dollars, that those projects still need to be delivered in this financial year, as well as some of our reserve funds for major projects going forward. So anything further, councillors? Put this to a vote. No? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.2 is the 2021-2025 Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. Mr. Ray, you introduce this one too, please.
Thanks, Mayor. As you've described, the report proposed that the Council adopts the 2021-2025 Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. This plan is a requirement of the Public Health Act and must be adopted by Council by the 31st of October. So we're well in advance of that date. The plan provides a strategic framework to improve health and wellbeing outcomes in the community over the next 4 years, and it aligns with the recently adopted community vision and council plan. And the plan has been developed over a period of 6 months in collaboration with a range of stakeholders and community agencies, and will be implemented in partnership with those agencies and community stakeholders who will continue to work collaboratively to improve the health and wellbeing of our Shire. The plan presented for adoption also follows a public consultation process. Mayor, it's recommended that Council adopt the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2021-2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, can I have somebody to move the motion, please? Councillor Kennedy, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon, thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Look, a huge amount of work has gone into creating this plan by Katie Hearn and her team, and I think the outcome is a real reflection of that effort. We have a plan that is clear focus on 2 key priorities and goals that are achievable. Moving the community forward through creating supportive environments and enabling better and more equitable access to services couldn't be more important at this time, with the interruption, loss and restriction that has occurred over the past 18 months. The community needs social, emotional and family support. This plan is a collaborative work with multiple community agencies, council departments and health services. And these partners will continue to work collectively for the duration of this plan and use the RBA model to evaluate the plan during the course of it. I think it's really well done, and I'm pleased to support the adoption of this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, I echo what Councillor Kennedy has just said. This is a really important document and it's been well done by all the people behind it. So I congratulate everyone that's had a part in this plan. And after the last 18 months, we definitely need something to make sure we've got something in place for all those people that will be needing it with what's happened the last 18 months. So I'm more than happy to recommend this plan and get it out there into the public eye. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor Macon. And I think it is an excellent plan, and I'd urge people in the community to have a look at it. It's very well written. It's lays things out so simply, but addresses key issues that our communities are facing, particularly around family violence and the statistics we're seeing about people with mental health issues, probably as a result of the pandemic. So it is certainly very, very current, and I would urge people to grab a copy and have a read. Okay, councillors, anyone have any further comments? I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.3 is the Public Transparency Policy Review. Mr. Mason.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The Public Transparency Policy is a requirement of the Local Government Act. So following a review of the existing policy, it was considered that only very minor changes are considered necessary. So the recommendation is that Council adopt a new policy, which is largely the same as the previous one, and revoke the old policy. So the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason, and we certainly, value transparency, and we should be as open as possible as a council with our communities. Someone like to move that recommendation? Somebody? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Hickey, do you want to make a comment on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is mostly procedural. The changes are very small. and it is for the benefit of the transparency of the whole organisation. So I'm delighted to move this motion too.
Thank you. Councillor Vogels, do you have anything further?
No, just purely procedural. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote, councillors. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.4 is the designation of a bushfire place of last resort for Terang. Ms. Linley, this is your area.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider designating the Terang Recreation Reserve as a bushfire place of last resort neighbourhood safer place. A bushfire place of last resort is a place during the passage of a bushfire that can be used by people whose bushfire plans have failed. It is important to stress that they are not community fire refuges or relief centres. Bushfire places of last resort are assessed by the CFA as providing some protection from immediate risk of direct fire attack, but not necessarily from other risks such as flying embers. They do not guarantee survival. In determining the appropriateness of a site, council is required by legislation to identify potential locations, notify the CFA. The CFA then assesses and certifies the location, taking into consideration fire rating guidelines, and the site is also considered by Council's Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. If the proposed location does not meet the criteria, it cannot be designated. The Terang Recreation Reserve has been assessed in accordance with all legislative procedures and requirements, and based on the ability of the site to meet the required criteria with only minor or no change in the level of fire prevention maintenance, it is recommended that the Terang Recreation Reserve be designated as a bushfire place of last resort. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Linley. Councillors, there's a recommendation there. Someone like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. There have been quite a few requests from the Terang community as to the designation of the BPLR in Terang. So it is pleasing to have the Terang Recreation Reserve put forward as an approved option. There has been quite some time taken to reach this stage, but the initial site put forward has been rejected, and the delay really points to the careful consideration given to ensure the very best decision on the location of the BPLR was made. The report before us outlines the processes of assessment and certification by the CFA. Terang, the town of Terang, has a fire risk rating of medium according to the Victorian Fire Risk Register, with a high risk rating in some areas to the east and south of Terang. We have experienced multiple fire events, so I urge Terang residents and residents in surrounding communities to make your fire event plans and be aware of the nearest bushfire place of last resort, should you need it in the event that your own bushfire plans fail. I'm very pleased to support the recommendation to designate the Terang Recreation Reserve as a bushfire place of last resort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Cole, did you have something to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just to say that in these extreme days when we have bushfires going, a place of last resort is a valuable item to save any loss of life and grief. And the main thing is leave early and take up residence early so that there's no congestion on the roads and things. These are designated safe places, so use them.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillors, anything further to a vote? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.5 is unlocking housing projects, Timboon and Simpson. Ms. Linley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Unlocking Housing, Timboon and Simpson projects arose from a number of strategies locally and regionally undertaken over the past 18 months. The purpose of this report is to outline the background and rationale for the projects, the intended outcomes, the funding agreement requirements, options for implementation, including partnering or entering entering into a joint venture with a third party. We've considered the risk and exposure for council, proposed project management and governance. The core aim of both projects is to seek to resolve the growing problem of a lack of worker and affordable housing in the Corangamite Shire, housing that supports key local industries and the visitor economy. The recently completed residential land review for Camperdown, Cobden and Terang highlighted that land which is not market ready for sale and development is being overlooked, largely due to the high upfront capital costs associated with lot creation. This situation is exactly the same for Timboon and Simpson. As council has not undertaken residential development projects of this type in the recent past, there are a number of options to be considered, ranging from partnerships, council becoming the developer, to handing the projects over to a developer to run. These options, the risks and benefits, and the proposed approaches for both Simpson and Timboon are outlined in the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lingley. Councillors, there's a recommendation, page 109. Someone prepared to move that. Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I've got some notes here, so I'll work my way through. I'd like to move that we accept the officer's recommendation. The officer's recommendation is in several parts, as the funding covers two separate but related projects. In Simpson, the project covers land that was the subject of a positioning Timboon Simpson strategy work, which looked at a range of recommendations to help the growth of the town as a service town for the district. This land is in private ownership, and that is why I support recommendation to seek development partnership to assist in opening up residential land opportunities in town. In Timboon, this land is owned by council and is near existing residential development, sporting facilities and a transfer station. The proposal is for a small number of lots, and on that basis, I support the recommendation that council take on the developer role in this case. Both the Timboon and Simpson projects will allow council to show how residential development in our towns could be in the future, with environmentally sustainable measures, including power, water, walking paths, landscaping, street lighting, and the materials to be used in the buildings. One of the main reasons we are even considering this type of development as a local government is because of the incredible demand for housing, not only in our Shire, but throughout the whole region. We also know that while the price of land and housing has skyrocketed during COVID-19, there are still some market barriers or market failures where developers are not prepared to invest in our small towns and inland towns. This is why the funding to go towards the cost of civil infrastructure, power, water, sewer, roads, curb and channel is really important. Council could not think about undertaking these types of projects without financial support. It is also important that we continue to do the right checks and risk assessments, and I support the recommendation that officers undertake this work and continue to negotiate with the state government if any changes to the agreements are needed. Finally, these types of opportunities don't come around very often. It's important for council to respond and to act when they do. The project aligned with actions in our council plan, and this will put us well on the way to increasing our population, our workforce, and the viability of our rural towns. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Council has developed a plan to position Timboon and Simpson to increase appropriately zoned and serviced land to enable both towns to act as future key service centres to the Great Ocean Road for housing, tourism, accommodation, commercial and industrial opportunities. To increase the supply of low to high-end rental and ownership accommodation for permanent and seasonal key workers from a range of industries across the Great South Coast and Barwon regions. The region has a number of key employment opportunities linked to significant growth and demand for labour in agriculture industries associated with food, fibre and the energy industries. There are currently almost 4,000 key worker jobs being imported from outside the region. That is, they work in the region, but they live outside it. This is due to a large part there being insignificant supply of appropriate housing available within the region to accommodate these workers and their families. It is projected that a further 2,610 jobs will be created within the region by 2024, which will add to the demand of housing within the region over the coming years. Corangamite Shire has experienced a chronic housing shortage with accommodation urgently needed for the existing workforce. Both these projects will promote economic and social renewal in these towns, which can only benefit the whole region, not just Timboon and Simpson. Happy to recommend to proceed with option B, council as developer for Unlocking Housing Timboon project, and proceed with option A, joint venture, council with the development partner for Unlocking Housing Simpson project. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillors, is there any further comments? Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to do some amount of repetition, I beg your pardon. Certainly the lack of worker and affordable housing to support key local industries and the visitor economy has long been recognised in Corangamite Shire. And one of the issues related to this is the supply of residential land that remains undeveloped, largely due to the high upfront capital costs. The positioning Timboon and Simpson strategy was adopted by Council in September 2020, and that has progressed to the Unlocking Housing Timboon and Simpson projects, which emanated due to the growing problem of the lack of worker housing. Our council plan has established strategic direction to support new housing opportunities and population growth. We are currently experiencing very high demand for housing as people from the metropolitan areas seek to relocate to Corangamite Shire and other regional areas. For tourism, projections forecast an average 4% per annum increase in visitation to the Great Ocean Road region over the next several years. The Great Ocean Road Action Plan recognises the key future role the hinterland will play in settlement planning for the region, including housing and employment growth, and that the hinterland will be a significant contributor to the regional visitor economy. The Corangamite hinterland towns of Timboon and Simpson fit these roles perfectly. Further, these towns are ideally located to act as future key service centres, not just for housing, accommodation and tourism, but also important commercial and industrial opportunities for which permanent and seasonal worker housing is essential. There are employment opportunities linked to growth and demand for labour in agricultural and energy industries. Councillor Macon did mention about all the extra worker jobs that are being imported from outside of our region. These people and their families could be living in Corangamite, adding to our economy and our social fabric. The reason they are not in Corangamite Shire is the lack of suitable housing. A projected 2,500 more jobs will be created in our region by 2024. So the demand is there and is projected to become greater. Several identified factors are creating significant shortage in housing for key workers and potential residents to rent or purchase right across our region. Clearly, we have a responsibility to do something about it. Estimates show there are substantial economic benefits to our region with the right mix of suitable housing. It is difficult for private sector investors to realise sufficient margins to make development viable. The Unlocking Housing projects in Timboon and Simpson are the opportunity for Corangamite Shire to enable the housing development we so sorely need, and from which our communities and our economy stand to benefit. The presentation from Ms Lindley has described Council's proposal to develop residential projects at Simpson and Timboon as the developer or a partner developer. We councillors were briefed on the project some weeks ago and have had time to consider the options. There are risks in undertaking the projects, but also great risk in not doing so. Council has a responsibility to promote economic development and population growth. We already have $2 million of government funding towards the projects, some of which has already been paid out to us. I believe Corangamite Shire's history in good economic and strategic management and getting the job done, so to speak, places us in good stead to proceed with the recommendations before us. I fully support the officer recommended option table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillors, is there anything further? Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And you wouldn't have thought there was more to say on this. I'll keep this very, very brief. This is a fantastic opportunity, and it's very exciting that this project has finally come to some sort of fruition with the option A and option B being considered. As a developer and as a joint developer, the Corangamite Shire is very well placed to take the opportunity and the assistance from the state of Victoria to develop a lot of housing and residences that's going to impact greatly on industry and on agriculture and tourism with the area too. So this residential opportunities that will be provided are excellent and very exciting, and I think this is a fantastic and exciting project. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Is there anything further? No, I'd just like to say I concur with my fellow councillors. I agree. I think it is a very exciting project. I think we have the capability to be a developer, but in saying that, we are going to do risk assessments on both these projects going forward. But I do think it's a really clear example of how doing the strategic work, which we did with the positioning Tim Vernon Simpson project last year, we were able to access that $2 million from the Living Suburbs Living Regions Fund. And in saying that, that was a $5 million fund, and we were very fortunate we had done the work and we were able to attract $2 million. So looking forward to seeing this project develop over the next few months. So councillors, if there's nothing further, we'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.6 is the Business Facade Improvement Program for 21-22. Ms Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to propose the allocation of funds for Council's 2021-22 Business Facade Improvement Program. The aim of the program is to complete works for businesses located in retail and industrial areas of towns throughout the Shire to complete works to their facades to improve the overall presentation of streetscapes within the Shire. The program was open to any business located in a town that has a street frontage and opened for applications on the 5th of July and closed on the 25th of August after it was extended for 2 weeks due to COVID restrictions. There is an extensive list of activities that are eligible to be considered as part of the program, and this is provided in summary in the report. Following the application period, 43 applications were received with the total value of works proposed close to $230,000, with requested funding amounting to $92,458. The funding request clearly exceeded the budgeted allocation of $50,000 for this financial year. Council does have the option of considering a further funding allocation to be drawn from carry forwards in last year's budget for facade projects that came in or under budget or did not proceed, together with a once-off allocation strictly as part of Council's COVID support program for small businesses. If this option was to be agreed to, all eligible applications could be funded. The remaining 3 applications not recommended for funding were unsuccessful as they did not meet the specific criteria of the program. May I also note, Madam Mayor, that the application for the Tim Boone Art Gallery is no longer applicable as the business has since closed. If that business could be removed from the recommendation, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. This has always been a really great program, and I think has been oversubscribed every single year. So it certainly has major impact on our streetscapes, that's for sure. Councillors, there's a recommendation there of allocating $49,464 less the Tim Boone Art Gallery, Carry forward projects, carried forward funding of 16,795 and allocate additional funds of 20,793. So we have, I think now 39 properties being affected or benefited, I should say. Councillors, someone like to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Macon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I'm more than happy to support this recommendation of all 39 businesses being supported. It's great to see that there's a range of businesses across the Shire that have put in for funding to this scheme. It's great to see. There's a range of things that people want to do: painting, signage, repairs to verandas, seating and everything in between. I'm sure everyone's getting excited that with restrictions easing and everything else, they want their business to look the best it can to welcome all the visitors back to the region. So I'm more than happy to support this recommendation, and I look forward to seeing what businesses, how spick and span they come up in the next few months. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Facades, that what gives you the first impression when you drive into a town, which is very important when you've got tourists coming in. And it also gives a sense of pride for the locals when you go into town, and it looks good. It looks neat, it looks tidy. If there was ever a time that we could throw money at something and help businesses out, now's the time. And it also helps in a lot of other ways as well with just it looks good, you feel good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillors, is there anything further to the vote? All in favour? That's carried. Item 9.7 is the lease agreement at 129A High Street, Terang. Ms Love, could you introduce the item, please?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this report is for Council to consider entering into a lease agreement with Western District Physiotherapy for use of 129A High Street, which forms part of the Terang Civic Hall. Western District Physiotherapy Group approached the Terang Civic Hall Community Asset Committee and expressed interest in entering into a lease agreement for use of the premises. It had been vacated since the doctors and medical clinic ceased operation. The Western District Physiotherapy have been operating in our region since 1994, and until recently were co-located with another business in Terang. And as their business has grown, they've identified they require larger accommodation to operate the service. Council administers granting of its leases and licences for council-controlled land and buildings in accordance with its property leasing policy. Council officers have negotiated terms with Western District Physiotherapy to lease the premises for a 5-year period with an additional option of 5 years, and the annual lease rental fee is proposed at just under $9,000 per annum to commence on the 1st of October, pending councillors' resolution. Under the lease agreement, Western District Physiotherapy will be responsible for all the service charges to the property, and the Terang Civic Hall Community Assets Committee will receive the revenue from this lease agreement. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. Councillors, someone prepared to move recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no hesitation in supporting the grant of this lease agreement. I'm really thrilled to welcome Western District Physiotherapy to occupy these very good premises, and all the more so because they have indicated a vision to grow their business and employ an additional staff member. So there's benefits all around as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to see a premises being occupied by a professional organisation again, and of course not to be able that rental fee will go to the Terang Hall Committee to continue to maintain the facilities in that region too. So, yes, delighted to second this motion.
Thank you. Councillors, nothing further to vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.8 is a lease agreement on 31 Main Street, Derrenallum. Ms Love.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this report is to consider a lease agreement for the purpose of an art studio at 31 Main Street, Derrenallum, which was formerly a maternal child health centre and in more recent years has been used as a family daycare centre up until early 2019. Last year, councillors resolved to enter into a lease for the property for the purpose of a coffee shop and community space and community garden, and unfortunately that arrangement fell through. A further expression of interest process has taken place, and we have received 2 submissions which support in principle the community consultation that was also undertaken a couple of months ago. 2 submissions have been received. One is for the purpose of a community house and a community lease agreement would apply. And the other is for the purpose of opening a commercial art studio and producing products on site to be sold from the premises. That lease proposal is for 1 year with an option of 4 years. Councillors, the council officer recommendation is to advertise our intention to enter into a lease agreement for the purpose of operating an art studio and selling merchandise. We would also look to provide an option for a further 4 years, and the annual lease fee would be set at $4,727, which is consistent with the submission and proposal provided by the applicant. Councillors, if there was no submissions received to the advertisement of council's intention to enter into a lease, it's proposed to delegate authority to the CEO to enter into the lease agreement. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. Councillors, someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Cole, do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Cole.
Right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Having someone willing to enter into a lease agreement with the Derrenallum facility is a great outcome. Hopefully the business will succeed. It's a strange, odd little build. It's a well-built building and a great building, but it's an odd-shaped building. It's not conducive to a lot of things. So an art gallery, it may well be suitable for, so I would even hope. So it would be very good to have another business up and running in Derrenallum as well. So with more people coming into the area to view them out and have a look around, it'll be a great way for them to come and see the fine delights of Derrenallum and surrounds. So I have no trouble moving this, Madam Mayor.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I have no hesitation in supporting this recommendation. I think it's great that people have the faith in putting a new business within the community of Derrenallum, and I just hope all the community members out there support this business and see it go in leaps and bounds going forward. So happy to support this recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillors, anything further? No further comments to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. Item 9.9, Swimming Pool Committee Membership 2021-22. Thank you, Ms Love.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, each of Corangamite Shire's swimming pools have a Community Asset Committee, which is established and appointed under the Local Government Act to manage the community asset. And this report seeks Council's endorsement to appoint new members to each of our Community Asset Committees for the forthcoming season. The committees are generally responsible for providing local input into programming and pool operations and hours of operation, as well as planning for minor capital improvements. And each of the swimming pool committees have recently conducted their annual general meeting, and it's pleasing to note that there are a number of new and enthusiastic community members joining the pool committees, and some committees also remain relatively unchanged. So the proposed membership reflects a cross-section of the community and users of our facilities, and we believe we'll see the continued effective supervision of the operations of each of the swimming pools for the forthcoming season. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. Someone like to move the recommendation, please, appointing those committees. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. The community asset committees do a fantastic job around the swimming pool, and the pool operations, all the better for having these people volunteer their time. The continued events and planning of community assets and usage like swimming pools is critical in the area, particularly as we hopefully move into a warm summer and into a post-COVID restrictions area. So these meeting places outdoors will provide that very vehicle that we will be able to get back together again. And I'd like to congratulate those new members and those existing members who have stayed in those roles as office bearers and as committee members on the job that they are doing. And volunteers are continually being harder and harder to find. So I congratulate these people who continue to maintain their interest and their commitment to maintaining the swimming pool assets in the Shire. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I recently had the opportunity of chairing the Timberwood Pool OGM, and it was great to see that they had some new faces around the table. As we've all found recently, it's been hard to find volunteers to join committees with everything going on, but fortunately the pool committees have seemed to have bucked this trend, and with the majority of committees getting new people joining theirs. I would like to thank all the volunteers who are stepping down from these committees for all your years of hard work. We really appreciate all the time and effort you put in to help running these pools. I wish all the communities to have a very successful pool season. I look forward to seeing what activities you come up with in this, hopefully, fingers crossed, a very hot summer. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Macon, indeed. Anything further, councillors, to a vote? And as my previous councillors, thank all the past members of the committee who are stepping down. As you say, Councillor Macon, they've done a great job, and thank the people putting their hand up again, and welcome our new pool members, and hopefully, fingers crossed, a long hot summer and one not affected by COVID. Let's hope. Sorry, we'll now put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.10 is the road sealing contract for 2021-22. Ms Love.
Thank you again, and through you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this report seeks to award a collaborative tender for sealing of various local roads in Corangamite Shire and Warrnambool City Council for the 2021-2022 season. Council has undertaken a competitive tender process on behalf of Warrnambool City Council and ourselves, and 3 tenders have been submitted, all of which were deemed compliant, and all are experienced contractors pre-qualified for road surfacing works with Vic Roads. A panel comprising Council and Corangamite Shire and Warrnambool City Council staff undertook an evaluation of the tender submissions and had similar assessment ratings in relation to the criteria of construction experience, past performance and quality assurance. The panel has made a recommendation and considers that value for money is best achieved by awarding this contract to Boral Resources. I would like to note for Council that based on the tender price from Boral Resources, the cost to complete Corangamite Shire's component of the sealing contract is over our budget, but it is within Warrnambool City Council's component of works is within their budget. What we intend to do is to remain in line with the allocated budget, is to remove approximately 3 kilometre length of roads and defer them to the 2022-2023 sealing program. This is possible under the current contract, and we do want to assure council that based on condition assessments, we believe that this will not be of detriment to our road network. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Ms Love. And I think, you know, when you look at the price increases, 15% from last year of bitumen, it's quite incredible, really. Councillors, do we have someone willing to move the recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I am pleased to see that this is a collaborative process with the Warrnambool City Council to share resources and improve efficiencies and reduce costs. And Ms Love's comments about our budget allocation and the decision to sort of manage that so that we remain within our budget allocation serve to prove that, you know, we are very mindful of the expenditure when it comes to resealing our roads, but at the same time, you know, we are trying our best to make sure that our program remains at a very high quality, at a very high level. I know the tenders all met with the vital criteria, and the assessment process that they go through is rigorous. So I see that there was little difference between tenders 1 and 2, but I can see that value for money has won out in the end, and I'm happy to support the recommendation before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. The joint collaboration with Warrnambool City Council means that we can provide some high-quality sealing works throughout the Shire. Of course, most councils are judged on their roads, so the better the roads we can provide, the more likely we are to have people travelling down through our way. So I think there's a good motion to support, and I look forward to watching Boral Resources in their works.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other further comments they'd like to make? No? Okay, put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.11 is another contract. This time it's the Telecommunications Contract 2021, and I'll ask Mr Ray to introduce this, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, the report recommends council enter into a 3-year contract known as the TPAM's 2025 agreement, or the Telecommunications Purchasing and Management Strategy. Quite a mouthful. This is for the provision of voice, mobile, data and internet services. The reason being that council's current telecommunications contract is due to expire. Telecommunications services are essential to the delivery of and operations of council services, such as this meeting this evening, and many of these services would not be possible without the use of technology. The TPAM's 2025 contract is a state purchasing contract, and it's compliant with both the Local Government Act and council's procurement policy. The estimated spend over the period is not insignificant. It's about $531,000, and given the value of this contract exceeding CEO delegation, council approval is required. Mayor, it's recommended that council awards the TPAM's 2025 contract to Telstra for a period of 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Ray. Councillors, someone like to move the recommendation to award this contract? No? Councillor Kennedy, thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Macon, thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Mr Ray explained that very well. It certainly is a mouthful, the TPAM, so I'll say it like that. Look, I have no doubt that Mr Ray and his team would have torn this apart, so to speak, and made a very, very careful assessment of this contract, its content, and what it would be delivering for council and the benefits that it would provide for us. Yes, it is expensive, but I have no reason to doubt the wisdom in awarding this contract. So I'm more than happy to support the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Macon, did you have anything to add?
No, Madam Mayor, I have nothing further to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's, as Mr. Ray said, it is a really important contract, the way things are going these days. It's also good to know that we're going to make some savings and the opportunity to improve connectivity on some council buildings, particularly over at the Kalara Centre, which I know will be appreciated. Councillors, ready to take a vote on this motion? So all in favour? And carried. Item 9.12, quick response grants allocation for September 2021. Ms. Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to consider the September 2021 allocation of funds as part of the Quick Response Grants program. Applications for Quick Response Grants are considered as they are received and are assessed against criteria including alignment with the council plan, benefit to the community and eligible expenditure. The annual budget allocation for the program is $17,500. Officers have received 5 applications from the following organisations, namely the Port Campbell Progress Group, the Derrenallum Lismore Community Association Incorporated History Group, the Bostocks Creek CFA, the Skipton Cemetery Trust and the Southwestern Districts Veterans Cricket Club. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lindley. Councillors, someone like to move quick response grants this month? Thank you, Councillor Hickey, and seconded Councillor Cole. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. This is one of the good news stories. The people from Derrenallum Progress, Lismore, Derrenallum, Bostocks Creek, Skipton and the Southwest Veterans are all beneficiaries of this release quick response grant, which will allow them to continue with some of their wonderful works and providing equipment for them to be able to continue to enjoy their pursuits. And I'll just mention too that there is still funding that is available, and it's there for use. So please ensure that you get your applications in if you are in need of some quick response money.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These grants, once again, are going virtually right throughout the community. And whilst not a lot of money in the overall scheme of the budget, they're big money to some of these small groups to do some pretty major work sometimes and just keep things ticking along. So very important to the small community groups that are, especially at this time when we're struggling to, well, community groups are struggling to raise money and have functions and do maintenance and things like that. So they're worthy recipients, and I wholeheartedly endorse them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillors, nothing further. All those in favour? Carried. Item 10 is other business. Does any councillor have any items they'd like to raise in other business? No. Item 11 is open forum, and obviously we don't have a public gallery with us this evening, but Mr. Mason, I believe we've received a written memo regarding open forum from Ms. Sandy Gibson in Lismore.
Yeah, correct, Mayor. So Ms. Gibson has submitted a series of questions in relation to the repairs to the Lismore pool and plans for the pool to be open for the summer season. A copy of Ms. Gibson's questions has been provided to all of the councillors. It's suggested that the Director of Works and Services be tasked with providing a written response to Ms. Gibson, given the technical and operational nature of the questions.
That's fine. So thank you, Ms. Love. You can deal with that response to Ms. Gibson. That would be appreciated. Councillors, we have no confidential items, so I am closing the meeting and thanking you for your attendance. Hopefully we can meet face-to-face for the October meeting, and I'd like to thank those listeners and viewers who have joined us in tonight's meeting, and wish you all the very best and stay well. Thank you.